my goodness. How are you, Senator?
Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
The last time we talked to Senator Obama, it was when you were here raising money for the DCCC to get some more Indiana Democrats.
That's right. And we got them all elected.
And got them all elected.
Got them all elected.
And our two teams were vying. We didn't know they were going to make it to the Super Bowl.
We made it to the Super Bowl, and I don't want to be reminded of the outcome on that one.
Let me first ask you the one question everybody in our community is asking. You are going to come back and make another visit to Indianapolis.
Of course we always come back to Indianapolis. It's a great place, and it's got some not just Democrats but independents and even some Republicans who we think we can get to vote for us in the general election.
This is obviously a hard-fought campaign, but in the last 90 days to 120 days, your support among African Americans, not just across the country, but here in Indiana, has solidified, and I have never seen a community get behind a candidate so much. Why do you think that's happened like that?
Well, I think that early on people weren't sure whether I could get support outside of the African American community, and so they didn't want to waste their votes. But what they recognize, I think, is that the country's shifted. The country's changing. It's open to somebody who's going to deliver for everybody the kinds of healthcare reforms and education reforms and the changes in foreign policy that are going to be so important to giving people opportunity and taking this country in a new direction.
When we talked to you almost a year and a half ago, one of the questions I asked you was about a big issue that's here, and that is what do we do with former felons who want to turn their lives around, finding employment for them. It's an issue that still concerns our community. It's an issue that you probably have a position on, but we've not heard that because they don't ask those kind of questions in those debates.
Well, I've been very active in the idea of a second chance policy that not only gives skills to those who've been incarcerated, gives literacy to those who've been incarcerated, but also transitions them when they get out so that they are getting the kinds of counseling that they need, substance abuse treatment that they need, transitional jobs that start allowing them to establish a resume so that they can actually enter into the private workforce. Those are all things that I think we have to make a priority. They're things that I've worked on at the state and federal levels, and I intend to work on as president.
Senator, as I was walking through the crowd out here, I ran into three people, two of whom their loved ones are serving in Iraq. They're serving in the military. They're on now multiple tours. They're concerned how much more tours can our military, can our armed forces, our regulars, our reserve, and our National Guard take?
Not many more. And that's why I think it's so important for us to make sure that we not only end this war, but in future conflicts that we are making sure that our troops are properly equipped, properly trained, and that we have enough troops so that people aren't going through these kinds of 3, 4, 5 time rotations.
There are a lot of people who are criticizing you, not because of what you said, but because of what your pastor says. You seem to be the only, church-going person in America who's being criticized for what your pastor says, and a lot of people, in our community are just upset about that your pastor would be dogged out for something he said that you had nothing to do with.
Well, what he said, the snippets that were shown on television are incendiary, and I strongly reject them. But as you note, they're not reflective of my views. My pastor is now retiring, and so I trust that the American people ultimately are going to listen to me and my views and not engage in the sorts of guilt by association that would suggest that somehow I'm responsible for all the statements of my former minister.
In presidential campaigns, historically, the American people want to watch how a candidate handles the test of being criticized, how they handle the test of false charges, how they handle the test that you've gone through, the test saying that you're Muslim, saying that you're this, saying that you're that. How do you think you're handling those tests? Because they're coming after you with everything and the kitchen sink.
Well, what I've realized the more that I go through this process is that you're right, it's a series of tests, but the question is, can you stay focused on why you're in it? And the reason I'm in it is because there are a lot of people who are hurting out there. And I think that we have to change our government in a fundamental way. We've got to bring the country together. We've got to push back on the special interests that have dominated Washington for so long. and fight for working people who are struggling. And as long as I stay focused on those things, I feel good.
And since Senator Obama, I don't want to be the person holding you back from 3,000 people out in that gymnasium. I'm going to let you go. I know I'm going to have the chance to talk to you before we have our May primary on May 6th. I thank you for the opportunity of at least answering some questions. And I want y'all to know, he's coming back. He's going to come back to town. Senator Barack Obama, thanks very much.
Great to see you. Thank you so much.